everybody. Greg Hine here. We are live for another episode of the Aviation Growth Podcast. And here with me today, I have Bradley Wenztel. Bradley, how's it going?
Good. How are you, Greg?
I'm
glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well, and thank you for coming on again. I know the first time around we had some technical difficulties, but hopefully this time around it all goes smooth. We're plugged into Ethernet.
Looking good so far.
And we're on manual focus, and so we'll see how things go. But anyway, thank you for joining me. A couple of months ago, I think we got linked up. I had come across some of your images on LinkedIn. I think I had seen maybe it was a Kodiak that I had come across, and I just said, "Man, that's an awesome image." Followed you on LinkedIn, and then had reached out, and since then been following your work. So, you're a director, a photographer. And for everybody who's listening, you definitely want to give him a follow. He's got some really cool images, but maybe we could start with just, maybe how you got into photography. And if you want to give a quick intro into, yourself, that could be a good start as well.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you did a pretty good job there, but director, photographer, specialize in aviation, but started my career out with more of editorial, lifestyle, portraiture, stuff like that.
Sure.
It was just a gradual evolution in my career, but I started out in photography, I guess, officially in 2008. I'd always done it since junior high, just, there was something fascinating about photography. So just run around with my parents' cameras, take photos, have fun with it at the time, go develop the film. The excitement of, getting them back, you had to sit there and wait for them to get developed, get them back, check them out. And then it just fueled you even more to go out and shoot more, and see what you did well, see what you did wrong.
Sure.
2008, I started working for a well-known surf photographer. And from then on, the next few years was just linking up with more and more photographers I ended up working for from all different industries, and got to do a little bit something different with each of them. So it helped me learn a lot of different things, and especially from different industries, different standpoints of what's important, what we're focusing on. So learned a lot about just digital asset management, organizing, lots to do in editing, Photoshop, touch up, things like that.
Sure.
So kind of behind the scenes stuff, and then a lot of them too, just to see how they shot. Some were very studio based, some were very natural light. So lots of different stuff based from strobes and lights, like I said, in studio, to just getting out there and just utilizing the natural light that we had with some basic reflectors, diffusers, stuff like that. So, that's kind of how I got into photography, and from San Diego. So I started working for a few local magazines here, which kind of got me going with the concept of getting an assignment, having very specific things that I needed to accomplish, the look they were going for, the lighting, all those things, all their parameters that they had.
Sure.
So that was really fun. Tacked on a little stress, which helped just hone my skill set and put a little pressure on you to make sure you know what you're doing. So it was good. And then, I just, since then too, just, ended up going to Brooks Institute of Photography for a few years, networked like crazy up there, especially moved down to LA, a few years after that. And, just freelanced a ton while I was up there. Again, lots of lifestyle portraits, adventure, if you will, things like that. Yeah, I'll stop there for my little ramble.
No problem. No, it's cool. And, I actually, definitely wouldn't call myself a professional photographer. But I got into photography in a pretty similar way. I think my parents were into photography as I was a kid. And I grew up surfing a lot in the Northeast, and actually bought my first camera to bring with me as I went surfing. And I got pretty into it, where I started spending a lot of money on gear. And which I'm sure you know how that goes, but spent a lot of time shooting all different landscape type stuff, action shots. I even my first water housing I bought was actually just like this plastic bag that you put a camera in, and actually got some cool shots that way. And it was funny, the other day I was actually on my memories on Facebook popped up, and I had a picture that was used as a cover image for Eastern Surf magazine from 2008, and which was like, man, it would be nice to do that. Now I surf 3 times a year, unfortunately. And the camera doesn't come out as much, but went through, you got a lot of experience in these different areas. I know nowadays a lot of I think you shoot all different types of things, but a lot of your focus is on aviation photography. And so, and obviously that's why, it kind of caught my eye with some of the stuff that you've been working on. How did you get into the aviation space?
Yeah, I was freelancing at the time in San Diego, and San Diego being so close to the border of Mexico, I kind of grew up going down there for a lot of the off-road races, the Score Series races down there, and riding quads and dirt bikes out in the deserts and things. So the off-road world is pretty big here, and so it was through some friends who were doing some work for an off-road team. And the owner was looking for somebody to shoot some photos and videos for their off-road races, and they reached out to me. They said they knew someone. They reached out to me. Of course, said yes, and went down and did it. But then it turned into, hey, we're going to put you up in our race helicopter to get some shots there. Plus, we can drop you off all over the place, beat the trucks, get ahead of them, drop you off, snap some stuff, get some footage, get back in, and then shoot some stuff in the air as well, on and off during the race. So that was actually my first experience getting up in the air and shooting from the air. And then did a few races for them. It just turned out that the owner of that team actually owned a huge collection of planes, and that relationship grew, and that led me into, hey, well, I like what you're doing with the off-road stuff. I've seen other bits of your work. Do you want to come shoot some of my aircraft and things like that? And of course, who's going to say no to that? Yeah. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. The owner was kind enough to, after we worked together for a few years, it led into going to work for them full time, which was Lewis Air Legends. Okay. And the owner, Rod, just, being helpful and connecting me with the right people, and, kind of helping me mold a career in aviation with what I was doing. So that's kind of what got me. So oddly, off-roading is what got me into the aviation world. Cool.
Yeah. Well, I saw, one of your, I guess it was one of your recent projects. It was probably from late last year, was a project with Breitling, the watch company, which I thought was really cool. Saw some of your images of the different kind of older aircraft and some of the work that you had in some of their stores from around the world. Really cool stuff. Tell us about that project and what that was like.
Yeah, that was a blast. It was a good way to kind of end the year, and but yeah, it was, so I worked with Spring Studios in the UK.
Okay.
They were the creative agency to help put that together with Breitling. So partnered with them, and then was able to produce a good chunk of that as well. And then put our team together and flew out to Virginia Beach, where we partnered up with the Military Aviation Museum there, who had 3 of the 4 aircraft that we were using.
Okay.
So lots of moving parts, lots of people coming in from all over the place, people from the UK, people from Switzerland, me, a few of us from the West Coast, East Coast. So lots of moving parts, to get lots of aircrafts there, and then to get up in the air in a short period of time, get all the stuff we needed to, interviews, all that stuff. So it was a lot of fun. It was quite hot.
Yes.
It was 100 plus with high humidity.
Oh, wow.
So that was something very difficult to work around. But it was, but you never know that in the footage. So that's all that matters. And, that was a blast. It was great working with, Spring Studios and Breitling. Definitely a brand that, I've, admired for a long time. So it was great to get to work directly with them. So I was able to kind of direct the commercial after the kind of deck that studio put together on their creative and what they wanted. So to kind of put it into action.
Cool.
So that was a blast.
Yeah, and the other project that I had seen was with Joby aircraft, eVTOL, and saw some really cool images from there. I actually came across one of them in a magazine a few weeks ago. But what cool. was that like? That must have been pretty cool, and being part of like this, new generation, kind of the future of aviation. What was that project like, and how did you get involved in that?
Yeah, that was really neat. That was definitely one of the newest, neatest, kind of things that I've done.
Yeah.
One of the guys there said, I was like, because I mentioned something about me shooting some kind of more modern aircraft, because I shoot a lot of Warbirds and things like that.
Yeah, sure.
But, over time I shoot some more, newer aircraft and stuff. And he's like, well, there you go. He's like, this thing's so new, it's not even out yet. Yeah. It's the future. So I was like, hey, all right. So, but yeah, that was a very fun shoot, for something that I think Joby is definitely way ahead of the curve when it comes to that industry. And it's definitely a huge transition or pivot in the aviation industry too, with where it's going. Obviously, with all the cars going electric, it's kind of going crazy and a lot faster than I thought it would. But aviation's right there with it. I think Joby's leading the pack. But yeah, that was pretty neat. It was, now I can say the first time I've done an air-to-air photo shoot with an aircraft that was unmanned. Okay. So that was kind of interesting to see, flying next to this thing, photographing it, and I can see the inside the cockpit and there's no one there.
There's nobody there.
And at least, again, to clarify, at the time it was manned by, 2 pilots and a crew of like 10 or 12. So it wasn't completely autonomous in that sense. It just wasn't someone riding in it. But it was still neat. So that was definitely a good time. Yeah. And it's neat to see all that they're doing since then. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, we talk with a lot of people, and there's a lot of companies that are kind of racing to get these aircraft into production and out there, and actually carrying out real missions. And so it's cool to see how quickly all of this stuff is progressing, because I think a lot of people thought it would be a long time before we saw this, and we're seeing that the technology is really coming along quickly, and might be sooner than later than we sooner than we expected, I guess. But I've seen you've had a lot of experience, photographing all different types of aircraft. But what would you say is has been your favorite aircraft to actually shoot?
Yeah, the Havilland Mosquito is at the top of the list for me.
Okay.
Just had a lot of fun adventures with that aircraft, and again, I think there's only 4 currently airworthy in the world, so been able to photograph 2 of them.
Okay.
And that's taken me, between the 2, has taken me to as far as New Zealand to go photograph it, up at Oshkosh, Virginia, Texas. So have had a really fun kind of bonding experience, especially with PZ 474. That was the one that was restored in Auckland, New Zealand by AvSpecs. And so when I went out there, I got to see its first flight, which was pretty special. And went out there for about a week and took some stills and motion of that. And then to fly back and have it shipped to Texas, and then to document it showing up in huge cargo containers in pieces, and then having all the guys from AvSpecs come out and reassemble it again now in Texas, and then to see its first flight after its reassembly in Texas. So, and then flying it up to Oshkosh, where it ended up winning Grand Champion. So that was all pretty special. And then obviously during the Breitling shoot, got to photograph and film the Mosquito in their collection, which I believe was also done by AvSpecs in New Zealand. So it's just just an insanely incredible aircraft, in my opinion, just with the engineering that went into that. Obviously, for those, I'm sure everyone knows, but for those that don't, it's made of wood. Metals were scarce at the time, so some ingenuity there to make it happen. But to even be in New Zealand and go to their wood shop where they were making the plane, which is kind of funny to say out loud, to go to their wood shop where they're making the plane. But to see all of their schematics and blueprints and jigs and all this stuff of just seeing these big skeletons of the wings and fuselage and stuff like that is just pretty amazing. So that one, the Mosquito kind of has a special place for me of what I've been able to photograph with it, but also just kind of see, especially that plane, on its journey of restoration and things like that.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, I've seen some really cool shots of yours of that aircraft, and it's definitely interesting to only see, there's only a handful of them that are out, or less than a handful of them that are out there. And so pretty cool. I'm sure it was pretty awesome to be a part of that. I know, in looking at your some of your like Instagram stories, I'm constantly seeing you like actually, kind of the behind the scenes of shooting some of these aircraft. And so, you got cargo doors open, or, different ways that you're photographing some of these different aircraft. What's the coolest aircraft that you've actually been flying in, shooting out of?
Yeah. Immediately the B-25, it's just such a historic aircraft in itself. But then to run around the inside of that thing, shooting out of the tail, shooting out of the side is pretty amazing. It just gives you a very good experience of what it was like for people that actually had to fight in those planes in World War II. But my grandfather talked about his time spent in World War II in the South Pacific, and before he took off there, the amount of times that he got to fly in B-25s, and he always said he really liked, his favorite spot in the B-25 was the tail, which is my favorite spot to shoot out of in the B-25, and the one that I was predominantly shooting out of was custom fit in the end. So we removed all the guns and everything. So it was just wide open space, no plexiglass, no anything. So just a seat and just the open air.
Sure.
So it gave you a great view, and to be able to have planes come straight on at you is one of my favorite shots, because it's so difficult to get. And it's just not that kind of normal thing that you see as someone who's standing on the ground or flying. You don't get that feeling of a plane coming right at you. It's pretty neat. So hearing him talk about his time spent in the tail of the B-25, and then that I'm back there always kind of is a neat connection, but it's also just a blast. It's like a roller coaster back there, flying around while we're shooting. So
yeah. No, really, really cool stuff. So I guess, like as you've done a bunch of different projects. I've seen, you've shot a lot of Warbirds, you did the Joby project. I know that you also shoot some like corporate jets and all different stuff. I guess, as you're looking forward into the future, what types of stuff are you looking to get involved in? I know that, you've been a photographer. You've also gotten a lot more into actually directing. And so whether that's for the shoots or for commercials or video, how do you look at the future?
Yeah. Well, I will never put down my camera.
Yeah.
I'll say that much, but, directing is definitely, the thing that, diving more into. Over the years, I've always done it here and there sporadically.
Sure.
Just with different friends that are cinematographers and hold various positions and roles and creative positions. Been able to work on a lot of different projects. Because as a still photographer, a few of my cinematography buddies would pull me on sets and to just get my eye on certain things, and then that evolved into, hey, can you just come direct this? So it's always been there, but it's just never been the thing that I really grasped onto, because it's too obsessed with photography.
Yeah.
But over the past few years, I've had the opportunity to direct some bigger and bigger things, and kind of is weird to step back away from the camera and be hands off. Is the more and more I do it, gets a little easier to not be behind the camera, but I really enjoy it. It kind of takes that 30,000 foot view to kind of see the whole picture of what we're trying to accomplish. So partnered up with Medic, who is a production and creative agency. So they're representing me now as a director as well as photographer, but
cool.
To push more for directing. So hopefully I'll have some stuff coming out this year with some cool projects that we'll be working on, and which may or may not be aviation related.
Okay.
But because you go to my site, poke around there, obviously my Instagram is all aviation, but my website has a mixture of a little bit of adventure lifestyle, automotive, things like that mixed in with aviation. So
sure.
But that's kind of what I think 2022 holds for me, is maybe a little bit more directing.
Very cool. Yeah, excited to see some of these new projects that you're working on. But I know we had talked a little bit offline just about, your experience and building up your business and, working through all, I guess all different industries, different projects, all that type of stuff. I guess for, people that are looking to get into, whether it's photography or just like the kind of creative space in general, do you have any, particular advice for them?
Yeah. Well, I can speak on what worked for me. The creative world in general, whether that's photography, cinematography, graphic design, and many other things. I think it's just a matter of, like I said, I ended up just working for several different photographers over the first few years, just to really see that high level work and to see how it's captured, to see how they work, the business side of things, marketing, all that stuff. You know, and again, everybody does everything different. So there's no, in the creative world, at least in photography, there's no blueprint. You know, there's no, it's not like a multitude of other businesses where, you know, there's just this very clear cut path that you take. You go do this, you do this, you do this,
right,
and you're on your way. You know, when it comes down to it, photography and cinematography, things like that is art. So it's very subjective. So I would say just go try to work with photographers. Look at people's work that you like. You know, be prepared to be told no. You know, not everybody can go take on everybody, and have assistants all the time, but just reach out to different photographers that you look up to. Look at other people's work that's outside of what you actually like. So I find a lot of inspiration in things that aren't even aviation related.
Sure.
It's more of just what evokes emotion, and then kind of looking at it as what's the image doing that's doing that. So, you know, and to, you know, like I said, the first photographer I worked for was a surfing photographer. The photographer after that was a family, newborn, and an infant photographer. So two totally different things.
Yeah,
and then
sure.
A commercial photographer after that, and a number of others, but celebrity and fashion. So all over the place. But I learned something different from everybody. Watched how everybody ran their business. But the one word I would just focus on is just network. The best thing you can do is meet people, be your genuine self, and just get out there and just make relationships, friendships. It takes time. It takes a long time to be patient. It's you know, but and I live by the luck favors the prepared. It's definitely that bell that's rung with me all the time is just when opportunity strikes, are you ready? Can you do it? So constantly trying to perfect your work, be critical of yourself, ask people that you don't know to critique your work. I think some of the best critiques I got early on in my career were some of the most hurtful. But it really, but then after that, I saw a distinct change in my work. So all of that being said, just, you know, network, take opportunity, perfect your work, try to go work with some photographers, and just network.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's huge, really, for any business. You know, you can kind of get locked in, get like tunnel vision on, you know, what you're doing right now and what you're working on right now. But there's so many different things that are going on in the world. And it's funny how, you know, I've seen like conversations that I had with people from, you know, years ago that, you know, you had that intro conversation and nothing came of it. But then all of a sudden one day they shoot you a message and they're like, hey, you know, what's up with this? Or, you know, we could use some help on that. Or, you know, they've been kind of like following what's been going on in the background and one day they have a need for it. And so
absolutely. Yeah. It's very much planting seeds, you know, it takes time for that seed to grow into what it's going to be. So those relationships, they can take time, they can take years, but all of a sudden it's just that one time, that one email, that one phone call that is a great gig or just catapults your career where you want to go. So say in the downtime, just be perfecting your work and trying to just constantly outdo yourself.
Sure. Yeah. And how about with like gear? I know that, you know, like photography or videography, it's always one of those things where like you could keep spending money pretty much forever, right? There's always something better. There's always, different accessories and whatever. And I think that, and some of the people that are in the creative space that I've talked to have said like, oh, well, my stuff's not that great because I don't have the latest camera. I don't have the latest, gear, whatever it may be. What's been your experience around, that side of things?
Yeah. I'm one to the quickest answer I always give people when they ask that kind of, hey, what camera should I get? Or I want to do this, or I want to do that.
Yeah.
I just always say, spend your money on lenses. You will have lenses far longer than you will have, camera bodies. Or at least in my experience. And I learned that early on. That surf photographer I worked for, at the time, that was in 2008, and he had lenses that he had for 20, 25 years.
Yeah.
Canon lenses, and they were still just tack sharp and killer. So there's some new technology that's coming out with lenses and things like that, but it's the actual fundamentals of them don't change. As far as I know, there's not going to be any clear glass or things like that. Doesn't mean technology with lenses can't change, but in the simplest of forms, you'll have good quality lenses for a very long time.
Yeah.
So I say spend your money on that, but you can do a lot with any camera. It's just a matter of understanding the concepts of light and photography itself. So, don't feel like you need to go spend the most amount of money on a camera. I guess it also depends on too what you're planning on doing. So there's no one answer that fits everything,
sure.
But start small. I've got some old cameras that still shoot, and I'll shoot some stuff on it every once in a while just for fun, but I'll slap on, my good glass that I've had for a long time, and I'll snap some photos and post them. Oh, what'd you shoot that on? I'm like, I shot that on a 12-year-old digital camera that, that has like no megapixels, but so it doesn't necessarily matter, build up over time. But thankfully there's so many great digital cameras. Even the kind of base model cameras, if you will, are pretty staggering in the technology they pack right now.
Yeah.
So you almost can't go wrong. But don't feel like you need that top of the line fill in the blank. You can get a decent camera, pretty inexpensive, but I'd say spend more money on a variety of good lenses, and you'll see a huge improvement on quality of your photographs. So. Yeah, for sure. I think most of my lenses are from like probably 10 years ago. I invested in some pretty good Canon lenses, and I look back at some of the photos that I took from 2011, 2012, and then I look at some of the stuff that I shoot now, and I'm like, man, that stuff was good back then. And it's more about kind of getting everything in the getting the scenes right, doing your prep work. Like I used to be way more scientific about how I shot. Now I don't shoot as much anymore, and it's like, I was shooting way better back then when I was into it, all the time. So it's good glass, and I think just getting in the right mindset, really understanding what you're trying to, like, what you're shooting, what the scenes are, what you want that final outcome to look like. There's a lot that goes into it, and sometimes all the fancy equipment doesn't do everything that you need it to do to get that final shot and that final product. Yeah, it'll only get you so far.
Yeah.
And then there's lots of other gaps to try to get through. So you can hand somebody, the most expensive camera and glass and setup out there and still take kind of a terrible photo, if you will. So there's a lot more to just the technology. So It's kind of like the analogy of a car. You could get behind the wheel of some supercar, but if you don't really know what you're doing, you've never gone down that, been behind the wheel of something with that much power and stuff, it can be pretty disastrous. So just because you can buy it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to produce.
Sure.
So, but hey, if you've got the money and you want to do it, do it.
Why not?
You'll learn, and maybe your margin of error is a little less. So
sure. Well, cool. Well, it's been great talking with you. It's been great seeing, some of your projects. I'm looking forward to seeing what's coming out this year. But where can people find you? Yeah,
I am my website, of course, which is just my name, Bradley Wenztel. Last name's Wentzel. I'm sure it'll probably be up on your
we'll add a link
description there. Yeah. But on my website, BradleyWentzel.com. Instagram as well, which is Bradley Wenztel, LinkedIn, Bradley Wenztel. They're all crossed over one another. So if you get to one, you'll be able to find all the others. But
okay, cool. You're not on TikTok yet, doing any dances or anything like that?
I had some. No, I had some friends. Some friends actually from Kodiak, talking me into TikTok, and that lasted for about a month. Wasn't doing any dancing, but it was just. It just wasn't for me. I stick to Instagram and LinkedIn, and I'm connected to Facebook, but I don't really pay attention to Facebook.
Yeah,
so,
I'm kind of the
Instagram
same way.
and Instagram, LinkedIn, and my website. So
all right, well, cool. Thanks for coming on again, and we'll talk soon.
All right, sounds good. Thanks so much for having me.
See ya.